Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom or Tom. How's it going?
Tony, we are just, a day and a half away from a trip to lovely Central Illinois. Tony, I am a little upset
Okay.
because there's no wind in the forecast. And if there's no wind, it's not Champaign. It's just a sparkling mid-sized Illinois city.
So you need a carbonated stadium.
Yeah, well, yeah.
A little bubbly.
Yeah, a little bubbly. And it's still sparkling, but it's not officially Champagne if there's not wind there.
Right. No,
Did I think about that on the way in today and think that'd be a funny bit? Yes, I did.
Don't worry, we could strike it. So, but Tom, you're the only person probably in the world where a trip to Champaign and Memorial Stadium is a bucket list game for you.
It's bucket list is a little strong, but it's
Pail list.
It's like a pail. It's one of those like little kids beach pails.
Right.
But
beach pail list.
It is one of the golly, if you count the Rose Bowl, which I've been to many times, but not for a UCLA home game, and you count the Coliseum, which I've been to the outside of, but not actually been inside. This is the only Big Ten stadium I have not literally laid eyes on at some point in my life. So that'll be a major milestone.
Do you think you'll cry?
Almost certainly not, especially without the wind blowing, corn or tractors or whatever into my eyes.
So welcome, everybody. We are here. It is a Wednesday night post-practice. We talked with Ryan Day, Jeremiah Smith, Joshua Padilla, and I think that's it. No,
Max Klare, Payton Pierce.
Max Klare, Payton Pierce,
Atkinson.
Bo Atkinson, Arvell Reese for 5 good minutes, talking about Illinois, talking about Ohio State for sure. Let's start with Max Klare and what some people were saying about him. Ryan Day was asked about him, and this is something that Ryan Day has said all along where, yeah, Max Klare, very good at Purdue. You come to Ohio State, it's different here. And it took a while for Max to get to the point where we saw him last week as like a legitimate offensive weapon. And now it seems like he's finally hitting his stride. And it's only taken, 9, 10 months, but
it takes a while for the Purdue to wash out.
But it's like, it's a legitimate thing in terms of how they practice, how they prepare, how they do everything, who you're practicing against. But now he seems to be in good shoes, basically.
Well, and one of the things that I think helped to get him there is the fact that Jeremiah Smith was talking about Max Klare, and it was one of the first things he was asked about. And he said, I'm going to paraphrase this, but he basically said, when he got here, he didn't have that dog in him. And Coach Mick basically assigned him to me and just basically said, like, fix this. And he said, now he's got that dog in him. It's, when you remember like in the 80s when you would see those like feature stories about Jerry Rice running the hill and all the rookies or the other guys who were like, oh, I just signed with the 49ers as a free agent. I'm going to go work out with Jerry Rice. I'm sure this will be fun. And they're like literally medically dead in about 15 minutes. I think that's probably a little bit like what this was like, where it's just like, yeah, I also played in the Big Ten. So that's pretty cool. And oh, Lord, oh no. And, once you probably had the, what the Great Awakening, is that what we call it sometimes, the Spring Awakening? Like we talk about that in terms of guys who sometimes are kind of going, oh, I'm just not going to play here. Okay, I should go to the transfer portal. In this case, it was kind of like, oh, I thought I knew what went into being a Big Ten football player. Turns out I did not. Yes. And so then you figure it out. And then, with someone like Max Klare, he's got the physical tools. He's got the talent. He's got the game. It was just a matter of, okay, now you need to step that up because Purdue good is not Ohio State.
Yeah, no, you're talking about like Max Klare talking to Jeremiah Smith. Like, I'm 6'4" too. I also catch passes in the Big Ten. It's like twins, Danny DeVito, Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like looking in a mirror.
I thought you were going to say we only make Simpsons reference on.
No.
Oh, your name's Darryl Strawberry. You play right field. I play right field. Like that's kind of that. Yes, yeah.
But it is again more testament to Jeremiah Smith and like that you get this top rated tight end in the country in the transfer portal. and you assign him to a sophomore wide receiver in his second winter workout. And it's like, take this guy, teach him how to be a Buckeye, teach him how to be an Iron Buckeye if you can, and then come talk to me in the spring. It's amazing. And that also, Max Klare has to humble himself a little bit to be like, okay, what do I need to do?
Yeah, well, and you kind of go through this with a lot of guys coming to Ohio State where, Jeremiah Smith, Marvin Harrison, there were only a couple guys who really didn't have that, like, welcome to the show, Rook kind of moment. Almost everyone who comes here, Tavian St. Clair, 5-star prospect, top 5 player in the nation, came to Ohio State, and in the spring, he looked lost. Now, he's put in the work, lost his black stripe this week, but there is an uncomfortable time where all of a sudden you have spent your entire life as the best player on every football field you've ever stepped on, and you get to Ohio State, and then it's like, oh, I'm the 47th best player on this field right now. And that's something that you will go through as a freshman adjusting to Ohio State. It's something you're going to go through. Jonah Jackson, when he came from Rutgers as an offensive lineman, like, no offense to Rutgers, but the Rutgers standard is a little different than the Ohio State standard. And so you will see that with guys, and sometimes you get guys who transfer in and then right back out again. You'll see that from time to time too, where it's like, this is not for me. For Max Klare, for Bo Atkinson, like,
we can talk about him.
That's called the transition. Professionals use them.
Fair.
You'll have these guys who come in and then, oh, okay, I see now, and then you make the adjustment, and then you're ready to go.
Yeah, and he talked a little bit about the transition from North Carolina to Ohio State and how it does take time, but working with Larry Johnson, working on getting lower, working on his hands, talking with Matt Patricia about just all of these small details, let alone scheme. Like, scheme is scheme, but like all of the little details that make him better and allow him to adapt to Ohio State, but then also make plays on the field. And what passes at North Carolina does not pass at Ohio State in so many ways. And
name 3. Pass rush, head coaching,
and
significant others.
Boom, there's 3 right there. And
let's talk about
the ram in the room.
We put the first questions that Bo Atkinson got. Poor Bo Atkinson comes out, and what are the first questions? So, how happy are you to not be at North Carolina anymore? And I think you could look at Bo Atkinson answering that kind of question, and it's like, yeah, he can't say it, but yeah, I'm sure he is. Tyler Bowen, who's was on a coaching staff whose head coach got fired at Virginia Tech, and he's currently coaching the offensive line at the #1 school in these United States of America. I'm sure he's pretty happy with his move. But, Tyler Atkinson, to his credit, was sort of asked about the situation there and talked about the fact that he still has friends on the team. And then when he got a more direct question, gave the no comment, which is, Tony, that's one of those things that maybe more people should use because it's a great answer in times when you feel like you might get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, and he did say, his teammates said he keeps in check with, they're keeping in good spirits, which is like, you've been at war for 4 months, for 6 years, like, how are things? We're in good spirits.
I'm reminded of the Captain Andrew Luck meme from
exactly.
Dearest Mother. Things are bleak here in Chapel Hill.
Although the way it sounds, they're only going to get better. Because things are so bad right now that there's only one way things can go after it hits rock bottom in the next week or so, and Bill Belichick is seemingly gone, then they can start to fix things and make this a real live college football destination.
Yeah.
But just looking at one of the really interesting answers that Bo Atkinson gave, he was asked, what you can play inside, outside, how do you prepare for that? Like, what's like, is that difficult? How do you like it? And he's like, yeah, it's fine, because if I don't know where I'm playing, how's the offense supposed to know? So it's like, well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So yeah,
if I'm confused, imagine how confused they have to be.
But it's like, that's Caden Curry doing the same stuff. That's Arvell Reese. So it's like, yeah, if I don't know where I'm going to be, then how's the offense supposed to know?
Well, but if you look at the way Larry Johnson trains his defensive linemen for years and years and years, what do we hear? Having all the tools in the toolbox. And, it's great. If you've got a killer spin move that you can beat a tackle with, that's amazing. Number 1, once that's on film, then people kind of know. Number 2, if you're going to, maybe you're not going around the outside. So maybe there's not a room to spin between the guard and the tackle. So, okay, now what else you got? And Larry has for years and years and years made it a point to train these guys with all sorts of different moves for all sorts of different situations. And there are going to be moves, if you have a fastball and a curveball and a changeup and, maybe a slider too, some guys are natural fastball hitters. Some guys maybe can't catch up with fastball. Well, if you've got all these different pass rush moves, you can, and especially if you're going up against a left tackle sometimes, but also maybe sometimes you're a 3-tech, or maybe sometimes you might be lined up right over the center. Those are different guys who maybe can get beat with different moves, or depending on whether the guard is staying with the center or the guard is going out, that's a different move. If you have these different moves and you know when to use them and how to use them, you're set up for success. And you've seen those guys who are typically you think of as edge players have a ton of success in the middle of that line. And I think that's probably a lot of why.
It's interesting because, as you said, I'm thinking like, Caden Curry, who at times is at 0-tech, which is directly over the center. And there's times he'll move all the way out to like a 7-tech, which would be like outside the tight end. And all in between, and you've got to have something specific for each of those spots, and it's a different, it's a different level of attack, because there are times where he may be a full 2 yards away from the blocker before they get to him when he's outside, and that's not the case when he's right over the center waiting for the snap.
Yeah, if you're lined up over the center, you've got about 12 to 18 inches between your helmet and his helmet. If you're outside, like you said, you might be 2 yards wide. You might be, you're a little further back. The tackle might be a little off, they're supposed to be on the line. Sometimes they're not. You're right, adjacent to the line. Yeah. So yeah, those are two very, very different circumstances. But if you have different moves, this is why you train for all this stuff.
Let's talk about Matt Patricia, because he finally just left the field. I think he's the last coach or player to leave the field. I saw him walk off finally. And Bo Atkinson was talking about the details that they work on with him. I asked Payton Pierce, linebacker Payton Pierce, how much time he has spent with Matt Patricia since the winter, just working on those little details and talking football, talking defense, talking whatever. And he said by Matt Patricia's second day here, he had spent more one-on-one time with him than at any point than the combined time with Jim Knowles. And granted, Payton Pierce was here for a year with Jim Knowles.
And was a true freshman and was not projected to be a starter. But
2 days.
Yeah.
Because, and this, they're still talking, and this is still, but it's not just football. It's, life and all of this. And I asked, like, what do you get out of it aside from the football? It's like you build up this trust, that this person is invested in you. They want the best for you, from you, whatever. And it's not this selfish need. It's like they want what's best for this person. And he also talked about, people say it's the process, it's about the process. And Matt Patricia tells them it's about the company as well, like the company that you're with, and like building all of this camaraderie. And it's always just interesting to hear like the personal side of this, because we've said it many times. Matt Patricia, when he's out here after practice, he's working with somebody, he's talking with somebody, and he's always got a smile on his face. And it's fair to say that's different than the previous administration.
Well, and he's an interesting juxtaposition to Bill Belichick, who we were talking about earlier, because these are both guys, they worked together for years and years with the New England Patriots. Yes, that's an NFL team. It's like when college football players leave and kind of go to heaven, like they pass away to the next life, and then that's the NFL. That's kind of more or less what the NFL is like, but boring without any atmosphere. Anyway,
True.
That's neither here nor there. Belichick left the NFL, had the year off last year, and had the approach to college of, I'm the smartest guy in the room, and I'm going to, and brought in, folks like Mike Lombardi, who there has been some recent reporting that he has not had a sparkling personality. He has not been the champagne of personalities down in Chapel Hill, and brought in this whole coaching staff, and they're not relating at all to the players, and everything's been a disaster. And you juxtapose that with Matt Patricia, who, when people heard his name, the immediate reaction was, well, he was a disaster in Detroit, so he's going to be a disaster at Ohio State. And I think it's safe to say he has been something less than a disaster at Ohio State, in terms of both, the personal relationships, as you were talking about, but also the on-field product, which has been somehow better than the best defense in the country last year. You took the national championship team with the best defense in the country, and you lost 8 starters, and then somehow it's better this year. And a lot of that goes into what he's been like around the building. I think he maybe took the correct lesson from, hey, this didn't work at the end in the NFL, and okay, I have to make some, probably make some changes. And I think he's talked very openly about his time as a head coach with the Lions and things that he, lessons he has learned from that and things that he's applied now moving forward. Every time we see him in this building, it feels like he's got a smile on his face. And it's not, you could have the guys who come up to the podium and they're smiling and they're happy. And then as soon as the light's off, the smile goes away. You see him in the back corner of the building talking to someone, and he's engaged, and he's really, you can read the body language, and he's smiling a lot, and and it's been like that since day one. I am floored at what a different outcome those two situations have had, because, you go back and look at the immediate reaction to it, and the immediate reaction was Bill Belichick is going to show these stupid college sons of guns what for. And with Matt Patricia, it's like, that's the dummy that used to be the coach of the Lions, and that went badly. And the results have been extremely different for both.
And I think the first time we talked with Matt Patricia when he was introduced, he talked about learning lessons from that Detroit situation. And if you don't learn those lessons, Tom, they say you're doomed to repeat them, things of that nature. Whereas with Bill Belichick, it's, to go back to The Simpsons, it's the kids who are wrong, where it's not, everything I've done has been correct with Tom Brady. And it's just interesting where the more you look at Bill Belichick, the less credit you give him, unless you're comparing it to Matt Patricia. Like, unless you're talking about Matt Patricia, then it's like, well, that was all Belichick. And whatever you're looking to diminish, you can with that whole New England situation, whether you want to do it Brady or whatever. But this is a renewed, refreshed coach. Who knows how long he'll be here? But I think as long as he is here, they're going to find ways, even if they keep losing talent through NIL to recruits and whatever. I think he's got a way of lifting guys up. Like right now, through 5 games, the defensive line has 1 fewer sacks than the defensive line did last year at this point. However, that's not counting any of Arvell Reese's 3 sacks, which you probably should. So it's like the defensive line loses 4 starters, has the same kind of statistical production.
Yeah, and you haven't seen the fall off anywhere. I mean, they've been, they've had through 5 games. Was that after the Oregon game last year? Or was that the 6th game?
That was the 6th game.
6th game. Okay.
Yeah.
So they went into that Oregon game 5-0, so same spot as they were this year. But to your point, you lost all these starters. You lost 8 starters. You lost your whole defensive front, and the guys who are now replacing those guys were the guys who were the backups and the guys who, in some big moments last year, didn't play a full heck of a lot. I go back 2 years, and JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer playing every single snap at Notre Dame. These are not guys who have been at the level of the people that they're replacing for the whole time. And you can have the longtime backups who then get their chance to step up, and sometimes it's Caden Curry, and sometimes it's Kayvon Pope and Taraja Mitchell, and the linebackers for 2020, 2021.
Keep trying.
Yeah, 2021, I think, where like Pete Werner and Tuff Borland had been there forever, and you look Justin Hilliard. And it was like, well, okay, so these guys have just been waiting their turn, so now they'll be just as good. No, not necessarily. These guys this year have been just as good, and they're replacing really good, talented players who, JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, made a few plays in their day. So to have guys who were the backups be not just as good, but maybe even a little better, depending on how you want to define your terms, that's pretty remarkable.
One last thing that I wanted to touch on. Ryan Day gave an interesting answer when talking about CJ Hicks, who has potentially redshirting right now. And he brought up, which is something, he brought up the 5 years to play 5, which is the rule the NCAA is mulling. He's like, I wish they'd tell us, which direction they think this is going, because right now, if it's looking like it's going to be 5 for 5, then CJ Hicks is missing out on some time right now where he could play this year and play next year. And everybody you talk to, they feel like this is the way it's going to go. But that's just speculation at that point.
Well, I remember when the unlimited coaching staff was coming and Ohio State it felt like largely planned their offseason around this legislation that is supposed to pass soon, is going to pass soon, and we're going to sort of plan around that. And then it didn't happen. And then it was like, well, now what?
And they're still dealing with the NIL situation as well, where it's just like, you're sitting around and waiting. But that was an interesting answer where they still have to be on call, Malik Hartford as well. But, with CJ Hicks, sounds like they'd like to try to get him some reps, but there's just not enough to justify. Like five snaps isn't enough to burn a year right now.
Right. Well, then I go back to like Kyle McCord, where Kyle McCord should have another year of college football, but Kyle McCord played in 5 games in his true freshman season and not 4. If he'd played in 4, he would still have another year of college football. He'd probably be making, $1.5 million or whatever it is at Syracuse. And, if he was healthy, they would probably still have they replaced him with Steve Angeli, and Steve Angeli had a pretty good year and then got hurt. But, if Kyle McCord is there and healthy, he's probably having another big statistical season. Now he's off to the NFL, and he got drafted by the Eagles, I think.
Yes.
And I don't think is playing for them. So, you'd be better off if you had that opportunity. But, when you're a true freshman and you're the 5-star quarterback, you don't expect to play 5 years in college. And that was kind of the case with CJ Hicks as well, where CJ Hicks was the 5-star, and you probably weren't expected to play 5 years. It was probably you play 3 years, and then I'm off to the NFL. And everyone's path is a little different. And now that 5th year looks like it would be beneficial for CJ Hicks. They would love to have him out there. They might not have him out there again until after the regular season. He can still play Big Ten championship game, college football playoff, all that kind of stuff. But if you are going to have 5 for 5, you would love to give him more reps, because they would love to have him out there on special teams. And if it was 5 snaps on defense, whatever, great. Like, you'd love to do that. But that's not necessarily worth burning a year for if you really are burning a year.
Yeah, and so right now you got Zion Grady, who's making plays, getting opportunity to make plays, and at safety, Fahim Delane, Leroy Roker getting opportunities to play instead of Malik Hartford. And so everybody has to just be ready to step up when their time is called, and so far they have. Now they're being called upon in the 4th quarter, or no pressure situations just yet, but you get them out there now so that when that pressure situation does come, they operate. Anything else?
I think we covered the big stuff. So
okay, all right, then that will do it. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up. We would appreciate that. And of course, 5-star rating and review on all of your podcast platforms of choice. And as always, check us out at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Sign up, become a member. Say hello to us there on the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. We're always talking about the upcoming game. Still rehashing the Minnesota game, and right now there's this whole North Carolina thing is an interesting situation as well. So
anything going on at Penn State?
And also there's some stuff going on at Penn State as well, and there's always conversations going on, as you guys might suspect. So check us out there. We'd love to see you there. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.